Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to another Total War Warhammer 2 online battlecast. For those of you new to this channel, I am basically just going to be playing Warhammer Total War 2 multiplayer quick battles, and just kind of showing you the replay and giving you kind of a commentary of it, talking about the strategies, what armies both players bring, um, all that cool stuff. So, let's start with the Hiles. And the Hiles are going to be led over here by a prince on a Sun Dragon. And the Sun Dragon is basically going to be the cheapest pick as far as like dragon mounts go. Um, so he's definitely a little squishier with like 70 armor, um, 44 melee defense, but he's still got armor piercing. He does fire damage. He's got like the dragon breath, and the prince has all the cool sort of high elf combat ability. Well, not just exclusive to high elves, but they've got stand your ground. They've got the blade of Bel Caradras, which is melee attack and armor piercing. Good old deadly onslaught. Bane shield, which is armor and missile parry, kind of makes everyone tankier within the aura. But yeah, the Prince on a Sun Dragon is just like a super cost-effective pick if you want like a really, sort of a mobile lord who can fly around the battlefield, do all kinds of fun stuff. And for the High Elf front line, it's going to be three groups of spearmen, but one of them is going to be the Scions of Methlon, and these are the ROR spearmen, the Regiment of Renown, excuse me. Um, and these guys, basically, they just have better combat stats. Really high melee defense, 63, whereas normal ones have 53. But on top of that, they do have this ability called the Aura of Protection, which gives plus 12% damage resist to any unit inside this little aura that you can see. So the Sword Masters and the Lore Master right here are going to sort of get combat bonuses as long as they're fighting nearby the Scions. Um, yeah, speaking of which, kind of in the secondary front line, you can see I kind of have them sort of spaced out so they can sort of advance through these gaps right here. But we've got two groups of Sword Masters of Hoeth, and these guys are beasts. These are some of the best. These guys are in the top echelon of just like great weapon infantry in Warhammer. Their armor, they've got armor piercing. They're anti-infantry. They don't really have shields. They have silver shields, but what that means is they can block 20% of all small arms fire from the front. But you can see here it says deflect shots, and they basically just kind of like use their swords as shields. Essentially, they can just like deflect shots with these giant two-handed swords, which is pretty cool. Um, Another group over there, and then leading them we have the Lore Master of Hoeth, and this guy's a really cool, unique utilitarian, hero. He's got access to the Lore of Death, or a few Lore of Death spells, a few Lore of Shadow spells, Lore of Life, and I think he has one. He has Foz Protection, I think, but I didn't bring it here. I think he has access to it, though. And he's also a really good sort of anti-infantry armor-piercing hero. He's perfect to lead a group of sword masters because again, he's got access to Lore of Life, so he has Earthblood, so he can heal units around him, which is super useful. Um, Behind him, we have, sort of in the center here, we have a group of Sisters of Averlorn, and man, the Sisters are just a really good unit, especially against the Vampire Coast, because they do magic damage, they do fire damage, and they do armor piercing. So they're going to be really good against all the sort of spooky, scary skeleton units. Not just the skeletons, but like big armored monsters, and like a lot of the Vampire Count roster is weak to fire and weak to magic, and a lot of them are armored like Graveguard. So the Sisters of Avalorn with their armor piercing arrows are going to do really well. And they're also they're a decent melee combat, so they're decent in melee combat, excuse me, so they will stand up to like dire wolves and like hound units and that kind of stuff. And then guarding them on the left and the right, we have two groups of Lothern Sea Guard, and these guys are the variant without the shield. And the reason I did that is because it's just to save a little bit of money. And the Vampire Counts do not have any ranged units, so you don't really need shields on these guys. But they're a really utilitarian unit. They give you anti-large and melee because of their spears. So you can kind of use them to screen out like Black Knights and like Terrorgeists and all that kind of stuff. But they can still be, when they're not in melee combat, they have bows, so they can be kind of shooting in on whatever lightly armored targets they can hit. And then in the back, I do have one group of spearmen just to kind of guard the back line, kind of guard these Sisters of Avalorn in case he tries to get anything up into the back line and into the cookie jar. And then, last but not least, in the back, I have one group of Shadow Walkers. And Shadow Walkers are, you don't really see them very often. I think I saw somebody else use this build, some other YouTuber, and I got really invigorated by the incorporation of Shadow Walkers, because it's so rare that you see these guys, because you have to play Nagaroth, and it's pretty obvious what you're up to if you're playing Nagaroth, and usually your enemy sort of will build their army around Shadow Walkers, but if you just kind of bring one unit of them, like I did, and kind of put them, sort of hide them in the shadows, in the trees, and kind of use them stealthily, so that when anything tries to get in your back line, these guys can just start firing in on them and applying poison, and even maybe pulling them away to try and just distract them. And then, maybe the dragon can come protect them. But yep, that's it for the High Elves. For the forces of the Vampire Counts, they're going to be led by a Strigoi Vampire Lord. And, wow, you can see him. He's pretty creepy up there. He's actually riding a Terrorgeist. And he's really good. He's the spellcaster with the lore of vampires, I believe. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is lore of vampires. And lore of death, too. A few lore of death spells. And he's going to be riding his Terrorgeists, so that's going to give him anti-large. He's got armor piercing. He causes terror. He's going to be scary. He does poison. It's going to be freaky. He's got two groups of Fellbats just to kind of muck up archers and that kind of stuff, get into the back line, fly around. He's also got the Königstein Stalkers, which are the regiment of renown for skeleton warriors. And these guys are pretty good. They have poison. They're going to be good at holding the line. They're kind of like, they almost sort of remind me of Sigmar Sons in a way. They're like skeleton Sigmar Sons. I mean, skeletons are already unbreakable, but these guys have 120 units, which is, I think, a lot more than normal skeleton warriors. So, and they're obviously unbreakable because they're undead. And the 60 armor, too, is quite a bit more than normal skeleton warriors get. So they're going to be pretty tanky for skeletons. And then he's going to have... Excuse me, guys. He's going to have two groups of Grave Guard, just the normal Grave Guard. They're armored and shielded, anti-infantry. They're going to be a real tanky undead frontline unit. Over here, he's got the Stearnsmen, which are the ROR Grave Guard, and they have regeneration, which is going to be super crucial. Charge defense against all. These guys are just real tanky. He's got some zombies up here just to kind of muck up the front line and kind of, tank any potential charges or anything I try. Another group of zombies over here. And then over here, okay, so he actually had 3 Grave Guard in the front line, and one of those is the ROR. Sorry about that, guys. And then over here, he's got some sneaky stuff over here. He's got the Dire Pack, which are the ROR of Direwolves. They're very fast. They have anti-large, which is super useful for a Hound unit. They're super effective. And then it looks like, has 2 groups of Blood Knights. So let's get it going. So he's going to be kind of charging through the forest over here, just kind of getting into position. And since he's in the woods, I could not see him. I knew, looking at his army, I knew he had something that was hidden, but I could not see these guys. So it's pretty good moves on my opponent. But I am kind of just going to send the prince on the Star Dragon, just sort of, he's going to go towards the forest, and he's going to scout, because he's on a dragon. He can fly around. He's real fast. He's going to kind of scout the forest over there. We'll just have a little bit of unit posturing, and my Sisters of Avalorn are going to start firing in on the zombies, which isn't the best use of their ammo, honestly. I probably accidentally left them on fire at will, but yeah, the Lothern Seaguard are going to start shooting the zombies, and that's definitely a better pick, because Lothern Seaguard, it's just going to be more efficient. They don't really have armor piercing. And they're going to start shooting at the Fellbats, who are, it looks like, retreating. It looks like they're actually coming back now, though. They can't really make up their mind. The Sisters of Avalorn are going to start shooting at the Strigoi Vampire Lord. Oh, but the Fellbats are going to swoop in and sort of interrupt them and get them in melee. So, the Sisters of Avalorn, especially with the Loremaster of Hoth, they will beat these Fellbats, but the whole time they're fighting, that's time that my opponent's going to get where I'm not shooting at him, where he can kind of freely posture around and move. So I do pull my Spearmen in to kind of deflect these zombies, just to get more sort of essentially efficient engagement, because I would rather have these Swordmasters going up against the Stearnsmen because they're armored, and the Swordmasters are meant to go up against these guys. They're armored piercing, they're armored, they have anti-infantry, insanely good combat stats, like they will mulch through these guys, whereas the Spearmen would probably lose against Graveguard in a 1v1 fight. But Strigoi Vampire Lord is taking a little bit of damage just from Overwatch fire, but he is kind of matrixing a few of those shots and just dodging. But I mean, the frontline engagement it could go either way. So far it's in the favor of the High Elves probably, but look at this. The Dire Pack is going to get right into these Lothern Seaguard, and it looks like they're actually going to sort of juke them a little bit and just kind of run in between them. That was pretty funny. But that's really bad because they're going to get up on the Shadow Walkers. But it looks like my opponent maybe didn't quite notice them yet. He's just kind of keeping these guys in the rear, sort of waiting for an opportunity. But man, the Sisters of Avalorn are getting a lot of good shots on the Strigoi Vampire Lord, taking his HP down. You know, not a huge amount, but enough to be considerable. And it looks like the Dire Pack are going to get in on the Shadow Walkers, but this actually isn't the worst thing. Like, the Shadow Walkers are pretty good in melee. They have 42 melee attack, 39 defense, 34 weapon strength. So even though they're going to take some damage, they will beat back the Dire Pack, which is going to be huge for me because this is an ROI that he's losing. And yeah, it looks like the Strigoi Vampire Lord is going in for the Prince, and it looks like he's got some Blood Knights here too. Oh, this is such a bad situation. The Prince is super low. He just got... Oh man, look at that. His HP just got tanked. The Prince got surrounded by Blood Knights, and the Strigoi Vampire Lord, he just got gooned out, just died so quickly. But man, these Sisters of Avalorn are doing really good damage against the Vampire Lord. He's taking a lot of shots, and my opponent is going to be sort of falling back with him, trying to get a heal. Spirit Leech does go down from the Lore Master down here, who's still kind of fighting these zombies. But man, this Strigoi Vampire Lord is taking a ton of damage. He's crumbling because his HP is so low. So when that happens to undead units, they just lose health. Their health is just drained. So he's really got to get that guy out of there. Oh, but the Blood Knights get in on a fat charge on the Sisters of Avalorn and just send some of those poor elves flying. But again, these Sisters are not bad in melee. They will lose in one-on-one against the Blood Knights, but you know, they'll hold, and they can, you know, hold at least enough to fall back. And then some spearmen over here, it looks like, are going to sort of come in and support them to kind of cover their retreat. Oh, and it looks like there was a group of Crypt Ghouls somewhere, and I totally missed that. Oh, it looks like it was a summon unit, maybe? Yeah, it looks like it was a summon. Yeah, that's right, Strigoi can summon Crypt Ghouls. But yeah, he kind of parked the Vampire Lord over here, but it looks like his HP is so low. It's down to 40, and his leadership's at -13, so it looks like, I mean, he has regeneration, but it looks like the leadership damage is going to be too much, and that Strigoi Vampire Lord is just going to melt and fall off his dragon. But the battle isn't quite one for either side yet. I mean, both players' lords are dead. The balance of power is in the favor of the Elves. Yeah, it looks like the frontline engagement actually is going in favor of the Elves. We've got a really nice, you know, half-health group of Swordmasters over here. Oh, but there's a full health group of Blood Knights. That could be potentially really disastrous for the High Elves, but it looks like we're going to have our Lothern Seaguard and our Spearmen kind of positioned so that our Sisters can just kind of keep juking the Blood Knights and just kind of running back and forth so that, you know, to try and bait them into a charge, but then fall back behind the Spearmen so that they charge right into my spears, which is exactly what I want. Jeez. And unfortunately, these Swordmasters do take a fat charge from the Blood Knights. They're going to take a good amount of damage. But if we can sort of isolate these Blood Knights and just get a good surround on them, oh man, the Scions of Mathlon are getting broken off. That's going to be really rough. Well, they're not broken yet, but they're wavering. And yeah, but this is, if we can trap the Blood Knights here, if we can just sort of lock them in and get a bunch of Overwatch fire from the Sisters of Avalorn and some of the Lothern Seaguard back here, we can do a ton of damage. And it looks like, oh yeah, it looks like that is going to be army losses for the Vampire Counts player. So yeah, that was a really good game. Super fun match. It was really scary when I lost the Prince. I kind of thought I was done for, but I think I just barely managed to get enough damage off on the Strigoi Vampire Lord to sort of pull out the game in the end there. But yeah, really good game. My opponent did really well. I liked his build a lot. I think the only thing I might change is, oh man, it's tough to say. I would maybe cut one of the Blood Knights and then get some like anti-infantry cav just to help deal with the Sword Masters and you know, some of the backline stuff like Sisters of Avalorn, because if he just managed to get, I think they're called Black Knights, or there's some kind of ethereal knight for the Vampire Counts, and they have like scythes. I think they do armor piercing damage, and I think if you brought like a group of those guys, that would have been really effective. But yeah, it was a good game, super fun. Thanks for tuning in to this Battlecast, guys. You have a good one.